Don't worry. Good evening, everyone. I will be on here for a bit. Then at 8 o'clock, I am on Amigo News channel. I'll be on there, and they're interviewing Tracy Blackwell. So I'll be in the chat 8 o'clock on Amigo News channel. I'll just get that link up for you. Come on, John, find it. Sorry about that, my phone. Oh, can't find the link. I will find it somewhere down the line and I'll get it in the chat. But Amigo News, 8 o'clock. Tracy's on. So I'll be there in the chat at 8 o'clock. Can everyone hear me okay? Thank you, Arlene. Just reminding me, put my glasses on for reading. So let's just get into it. Let me just So, not it. The State of Hate report. Editor Nick Lowes, Nick Ryan and Joe Mulhall, deputy editors. Contributors Rosie Carter, Matthew Collins, Gregory Davis, Patrick Hermanson, Safia Khan Ruff, David Lawrence, Gemma Levine, Joe Mulhall, and Nick Lowes again. So, I mean, just looking at them, I can only see possibly two people who aren't English in it. And I bet that they're all the rest of them are white. Never any black people at the top of the Hope Not Hate list or editors or anything like that. Remember, it's all about diversity. There's no diversity in the eyes. Loads of stuff. Section 1, overview. Section 2, hate in the UK. Everyday hatred. Boris Johnson has failed. Transphobia and the far right. An interesting one that we'll get round to that. And then section 3, COVID and conspiracies. Confronting a cabal. I must say on this report, they don't just go after the right wingers, they go after people like Piers Corbyn and things like that. But everywhere in this report, I only read every word halfway through it and read some other sections individually. But I took her tally up and I lost count after 150 of the times that far right or neo-Nazi was mentioned in the report. And why did I mention it a lot? Well, that's how you drum it into people. That's how you drum it in by repeating things over and over. That's how you drum it into people. They're not silly, these lot here. They are clever in how they lay things out, but you just got to go over it. I mean, why am I even bothering? Because they've mentioned Oldham, they've mentioned my party, and they failed to mention I'm the leader of the party, and they've picked up on Pat, who's white, as the leader of the party, but they haven't put me up as the leader of the party, even though I am. And I'll prove that to you in a short while. Tech and far right. Far right terrorism, the growing far right terror threat, far right profiles, far right terrorism, the growing far right terror threat. I don't even remember anyone who's been killed off anyone who's classed as far right. Darren Osborne wasn't far right. He was just a lone individual, although they did try, Lizzie Deardren did try to make it like he was something to do with Tommy Robinson. No. Joe Cox's killer wasn't far right. No matter what you think, whatever evidence you've seen, if you've been up there and walked round and done the walk that he walked, this so-called killer of Joe Cox, and been to all the areas where he went to, then I'll give you some say. But you haven't really got anything to say because you don't know the case. I do. I've done detailed videos on it. I've even walked the path that he's supposed to have walked. I've called out loads of different things to do with the case. So I don't remember anyone far right killing anyone. But how many Muslim attacks have we had in the past 20 years compared to so far right killings? So that's all they go on about. They don't say anything about Islamic extremism in here. They don't say anything. Not saying, although they have mentioned Muslims, but we'll get round to that. Far right profiles, everybody's in it. Hi, Aunt Sally, Budgie Burger, Steve Wild, Arlene, Amigo News, everyone there. Facebook user, you might have to click on the StreamYard link so I can see who you are. Mainstream poison. Pictures they put up are mad as well. As we know, they like to put up false pictures, and they've done it with Anne-Marie Waters. They put up a false picture of something and claimed she were at the march or something like that. I remember it. Oh. Sorry about this, mate. Nothing seems to want to work. Sorry about this. It's well acting up my computer. It won't stay. It won't go down. It just keeps going up. I have to look at that. Sorry about that, guys. Just let me, I'll have to get it up on my phone. It's not working on my computer. We go through everything here. Profiles, talk about everyone, Reform Party, Nigel Farage pictures is in there a few times. You just couldn't make these people up how nasty and hateful these lot. Look, Nick Lowell's white guy, a whitey at the top of the more hope not hate. He goes into saying about far right this, far right that, far right this, far right that. And I mean, these guys cancel you. They get you sacked from your jobs and everything. And I mean, if I was that kind of person, me, you wouldn't, I'd be everybody's number one enemy, because I wouldn't stop me until I found out where you work. I've contacted your employer to tell you all the nasty things you do. That's what I would, if in another life, I'd be like that, and that's the kind of person I'd be. But I'm not that kind of person. I don't cancel anyone, me, because they have a different view or anything like that. If you've had your jab, then you've had your jab. I don't tell you off. I don't scream at you. I don't start ranting at you about all this, that, and the other. If you haven't had your jab, you haven't had your jab. I don't say anything about, oh, well, you're this, that, and the other. You're failing everyone if you don't. I don't say any of that, me. It's up to the person. It's up to their decision whether they have it or not. It's not up to me to question, or it's not up to me to cancel people because they have a different view. I don't do stuff like that. I'm a real person. I have a real face. I have a real life. I don't hide behind a mask. I'm quite open to anyone talking to me. Of course, you might have seen that I've talked to Andy Burnham, Chief of Police in Oldham, Chief of Police in Manchester, told them what I thought. That's the kind of person I am. But these guys, they'll cancel you. And if you committed suicide after they cancelled you, they wouldn't be sorry. They would be happy. This is how nasty these people are. This is how nasty. Now, I mean, I didn't have so many run-ins with people like this until we met Matthew Collins at the MEP count in Manchester. And live on a stream, being recorded, he said to me, specific to me, oh, John, when are you going to get your next lot of smack? So accusing me of being a smackhead or whatever. So that's the kind of thing that we're up against these slime balls. That's what they are. Since then, I have said that Matthew Collins is a fat bastard. And he is. He is. He certainly is a fat bastard. Watch your mouth, mate. You know what I mean? Just watch your mouth. In another life, you would have lost teeth for that kind of comment. You would have lost teeth for that kind of comment in another life. You mark my words. So racism again. Remember, they've got to imprint it on everyone. So it's racism, far right, neo-Nazi. I haven't met anybody of that persuasion yet. I've met people who have issues with Islam, but they're not far right. I haven't met anyone who's far right. I know of people who you might think are far right, but I haven't met anyone personally in 4 years who's that far right like they're making out to be. The general lot of the people who I know are accepting of a lot of things. They just got issues with things like immigration, which is obviously, if we have issues of immigration, I have issues of immigration. A whole host of reasons, not just one or two reasons, a whole host of reasons. I have an issue with immigration on a cultural level, the kind of cultures who are allowing in that do female genital mutilation, honour killings, which I've reported on in Bury, East Street. I have issues with that kind of violence, me, coming from other cultures. I don't want them here, right? Also, where we're going to put everyone? We've got a rubbish housing in the UK is disastrous. We don't have a particularly good rate of housing. People don't have enough properties for people. We don't have enough new properties. You've got all these insulate people running around. Yet did they come to Oldham and check out the tourist housing in Oldham that don't have insulation? They don't have gardens or anything like that. These are the kind of properties that we have in Oldham. And there is a lot. There is around, and someone said this and I agree with them, 200,000 empty properties in the northwest, but they're not fit to put families in. They're not big enough to put families in. A 2-bedroom tourist house is not big enough for the average Muslim or Romanian family. It isn't. It's not big enough for the Iraqians or the Ukrainians coming here. They're not big enough. So, you know, we have to build houses. If you want to keep bringing everyone in, we have to build houses. And that's why I'm starting a National Housing Party, because we're going to build houses. I don't care what anyone thinks, we are going to build houses. And we need them. We need decent properties for people. We need properties for single people. We need properties for elderly people. We need properties for families. Really important that we get decent properties for families. Our road infrastructure is rubbish. So the more immigration we have, the more stress on everything else is going to be. I'm against immigration, me. I want no permanent settlement to the United Kingdom from anywhere in the world. I don't care if you're a white Ukrainian, and I don't care if you're a black African. I don't want any permanent settlement to the UK. Why? Well, for a start, you're taking away our values, you're wiping out our history, and you're demoralizing our culture, which is a great culture. And we don't want that. I don't want it. A lot of people don't want it. So I don't want a lot of these people here. I don't want them here. Don't want Ukrainians here. And even though they're white, I don't care what colour anybody is. There's no permanent settlement in the United Kingdom from anywhere in the world. Whether you're Chinese, you're white, South African, you're white this, you're black this, or you're brown this. None of you. I'm not picking on one kind of people. I'm telling you all, no permanent settlement. And that's how it will be if I ever get any kind of power. So let's go through the report. Section 1, overview. Citizens' beliefs. A danger posed by the infusion of such ideology and extreme conspiracy circles is that it provides an avenue by which adherents can justify illegal behaviour by convincing themselves of the legality of their actions. It goes right into all that kind of conspiracy thing again. Saying the far right is more extreme. I don't see that. I just don't see that. There is no extreme. That it's not as extreme, the far right, as some other people I can mention. An electoral threat, of course, I am going to be an electoral threat. Anyway, I'm going to be an electoral threat. I'm going to run in the local councils. If there's a by-election in Oldham, I'm going to run in the by-election. I'm going to do as much as I can for my community. If I manage to get further than a local councillor, then I'll do it again. But I am running, so you should be frightened that I am getting into the council, because I'm an honest person, me. I'm not a stinking, lying, conniving, two-faced politician. I'm a working class lad, and what you hear from me is honesty and truth. That's what you'll hear from me. And so, yeah, I am a threat. I am a threat, and I am going to be running in elections. It's simple as. Nothing's going to stop me. I'm not scared of any kind of online abuse, and I'm certainly not scared of any physical abuse. You have to be a big man, big tough man, to even think that you can pull me in the street or something like that. 1 minute, guys. Sorry about that, guys. Curers are here. Yes, Celtic Sigh. Hope you're all right, sir. You're right, Steve. It is. So electoral threat, of course. I am an electoral threat. I'm not far right. I don't do words like that. The politically correct words. I shouldn't keep repeating them, but they are politically correct words. But yeah, you must be a big man. You can troll me online like some people have done, and I'm getting information that an Oldham council employee is a troll. If I ever get into the council and I find who that guy is, I'll be demanding he gets sacked on some of the things he said and the way he goes on. And I'll be demanding it as a council person. And don't get me wrong, I'm against trolling and stuff like that. I don't cancel people, but if I get into the council and find out that the trolls on the council who work for the council, then they're gonna find it hard to keep the jobs if I get a whiff of anything like that. I tell you, honestly, looking numpties. Still waiting for someone to contact me by email, which is up now, and come on my show and stream or tell me what you disagree with me. Come and debate me on issues and stuff like that. I'm still waiting for it, but my email's always up. It's on most of my profiles. You can easily get in contact with me if you want to. But yeah, so if you've got an issue with anything I just said about immigration or anything, please come on my show and debate me. If not, shut your mouths. You can carry on trolling, but your voice is irrelevant. And if you don't show your face as well, your voice is irrelevant. To me, it is. We talk about Britain first. A couple of pictures up of Sam Melia from PA. And for some far-right activists, the sheer unlikelihood of such a revolution materialising will be demotivating. But for others, it spurs on ever more extreme and dangerous behaviours. He's talking about there that the people who are disillusioned with the voting system, you either want to go through the voting system or you want a French revolution. And I'm for the voting system, me, not the French Revolution. But what it's saying is here, people will go down the route and go to the French Revolution route. I mean, these people already do that. These people will already hit you and do violent things against you, thinking that because they're just, they think their case is just, they're allowed to use violence against you and they shouldn't get done. Well, come and try it, I tell you, come and try it. And it's never worked. It's never worked with anybody I know. And they link that the French Revolution thing to the far right by to politically correct, saying that that's why they're doing all the training and going to the gym and all that lot. Really? Don't people train and get healthy anyway? I've done training before and I wasn't going out causing riots or anything. You know what I mean? I do a lot of walking. I love my bike. When I can get to the gym, I'll get to the gym. Very active person, me, physically. So what, we're not allowed to exercise, and you think that because we're doing that, that means we're going to be guerrillas and make an army and all that. Honestly, you're a joke, you people. We should be keeping fit anyway. That's what you promote. And I mean, pictures of fitness. Let's look at some pictures of fitness. Matthew Collins doesn't look fit. Not at all. Oh, my mouse. I think my mouse is playing up. My mouse is, I don't know what's something, my mouse is well playing up. I can't even show you the picture of Matthew Collins. Okay, now. Some of those involved in the fascist fitness scene. What? What? So you get, if you go in training and all that and you get fit, you're a fascist. Joke, honestly. Extreme fascist ideologies, it keeps saying. Ugh. Politically correct words. I'm going to try and not say them. Yeah, they're preparing for violence towards minorities, anti-fascists, and race war. I don't know. I don't get these people. I mean, we're at a war already. We're being blown up left, right, and centre, but no one seems to bother about that, do they? Traditional far right mobilising narratives. The Liverpool bomber, the Channel migrants, David Ames's killer. All these are there to motivate the far right to get, well, I'd expect people to be angry at me, and maybe motivate them to vote differently. You know what I mean? I'd expect a liberal, I'd expect somebody in the Conservative Party who lives in David Ames's constituency to know about he's been killed, to get really angry and motivate him to change party and vote for someone else who's going to sort our borders out. That's what I think would motivate people, to do the right thing. But obviously, hope not hate, think that motivate means going to war. That's what they seem to think. They don't say anything about far right people, or so-called, or politically correct people voting. They don't say nothing about that. The British public's opinion towards immigration as a whole has continued to improve. No, it hasn't. It hasn't. It's only continued to improve in the middle classes. Them are the ones who want it all. There's only continued. Working classes don't want it. The working class ethnic minorities don't want it. Just wait till you hear the Pakistani man say, don't want the Eastern Europeans here. And let me just go through one quick thing that's happened. We've had Oldham Council have done a prayer at Oldham Church for the Ukrainians. Hardly anyone who was a councillor turned up, certainly from certain ethnic minority communities, because they don't want the Ukrainians here. They want Oldham for themselves, even though Oldham used to have a high Ukrainian. On Twitter today, someone's put up about the Ukrainians in Oldham. And the Ukrainian area was the Glodwick area where I was born and brought up, along with the West Indians. And one woman said, where have the Ukrainians gone now? That's what she said. And my answer to that was, they've integrated and gone out into the further parts of Oldham and not stayed segregated, which is Oldham's problem, segregated ethnic minority communities. That's one of Oldham's biggest problems. So the Ukrainians came, they lived in that area, then they went out into the further area, just like the West Indians did. Right now, that area, there's only one kind of people who live there, and they're keeping it all to themselves, and they're staying segregated, which was a blame for Oldham riots and a lot of the trouble we've had in Oldham and Yorkshire, in Manchester and Yorkshire, has been blamed on segregation. So that's where the Ukrainians went. They integrated. That's where they went, people. They didn't stay segregated like other communities. They integrated well.
Where's Eileen?
Sorry about that, guys. Cursory, busy time, 5 o'clock for my mum. So, yeah. I had to do a video because he mentioned Oldham. Even Oldham's in the thing is in it. So to go on about the migrants, like, so if you don't want any immigration here, then that means you're far right. I'm just giving you a whole host of reasons why we shouldn't have any, right? And people just won't accept that. They won't accept that, right? But I'll just give you a whole host of reasons. Could give you a whole host of dozens more reasons why we shouldn't have any here. All sorts of things. Things to do with our infrastructure, our housing, things to do with our culture, our values that are being eroded all the time. They're smashing up all our statues, bringing down our history. They're rewriting British history with lies. And we know this. We've been through this. They're rewriting British history with lies. That's what they're doing. And I don't want that, mate. I don't want that. And what you learn when you're younger is, what we learned when we were younger was, if we erase our history, then we're doomed to repeat the mistakes we made. We're doomed to repeat them. These things will come again if we rewrite or change our history. I promise you, these things will come again. Slavery will come again if we rewrite our history. Even though there is modern day slavery, it will be 10 times worse. A lot of things will be worse if we erase our history, and then our next generations forget what we learned back then. It's just going to be awful for us as a people. So they go on about mainstream normalization. So normalization. So what I think is not normal, is that what you're saying? Please come on me Twitter, me emails there, and if you lefty or not it melts Matthew Collins, all you pieces of filth, Dr. Louise Raw, any of you, please come on to me. Sure, email me and talk to me, and we'll get something done. Right. Coming up soon as well. Well, I'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, so they go on about mainstream normalizing what we say. GB News, they're the enemy. They normalize everything they're saying, even though they talk about delicate issues like the rape gangs and stuff like that. But they're normalizing it all. So they go on about that. Government legislation, State of the Nation poll. I don't believe any of your polls, you melts. Honestly, where have you gone to get your polls? To local lefty university? You certainly haven't come to Oldham to get your polls. You certainly haven't come to Oldham because it won't be like nothing like this. And if you come to Oldham and you ask the Muslims if they want any immigration, they said no, except for Muslim immigration. Honestly, that's what they said. They don't want the Eastern Europeans there. They certainly don't want any Ukrainians coming here. So you haven't obviously been to Oldham. Otherwise, your polls will look a lot different, mate. Section 2, hate in the UK. Hate crimes are universal, rising across the board, and despite better recording methods, are almost certainly being underreported, says Gemma Levine and Lyron Velman. So we talked about hate crimes on Amigo News channel with I can't remember who I talked. Well, we talked about the hate crime. Now, it's a funny thing, that hate crime bill. Some people want it scrapping, which I can see the point, but we have to bring something else in. Now, it's just a suggestion, but I'm thinking of treason, me. and I don't mean chopping people's heads off, but we should have a treason crime bill. I mean, people have burnt the poppy, treason, burnt our English flag, treason. They've spit on our values and our laws, treason. They need to be dealt with, these people, and I'd be kicking them all out of the country, mate. If any of them hate preachers start burning flags and poppies, I'd be kicking them right out, treason. But so I'm going to talk about that next time we're on Amigo News Channel. I've took some notes, and we'll talk about that when we're on that channel. But obviously, a hate crime, when you say hate crime to most people, they think their automatic response is it's a crime against a person of color. That's what your regular person will think. It's not supposed to be like that. A hate crime can be against anybody of any color or any religion. Don't just have to be brown. You can be white and have a hate crime done upon you, which is never reported, hardly. And how do I know this? Because I know a lot about the rape gangs. And if you look at some of the rape gang cases where the girls have been called white slags, white whores, they've been picked on, and white is used against them, right? There's never no hate crimes there. Never no hate crimes in any of them rape gangs. And they're the worst ones for using that kind of terminology with young white girls. And there's never been, I don't know any case where any of them rapists have been done for a hate crime against a white girl. I don't know any cases. So, and that's my experience to do with the rape gangs and things like that. I can confidently tell you that particular thing. And there's been hundreds, if not thousands, of cases where that's happened. A lot to do with the Rotherham. There was loads of that kind of stuff in the. No one ever got charged with any kind of hate crime because it's perceived hate crime just happens against people of color or religion or a different culture. Right? That's how it is, and it's more or less people of color. If you brought up a white South African, no one would be saying hate crime. They wouldn't, because it's a white South African. If it's a white Englishman, not many people say hate crime because it's not classed like that. In England, a hate crime to the average Joe is a crime against someone of a different ethnicity, colour, religion, whatever. But so coming in, they put a picture up of the two Palestinian cars going through London, calling for the death of the killing of Jewish wives and the raping of the daughters. They put that car up. Now, they put them two cars up. 4 men got arrested. And I think they've mentioned Muslim once in that little tiny bit, the anti-Semitism. And again, when you look at what they said in politically correct words, it was anti-Semitism is the far right. It's a far right anti-Semitism. It's not just right, so-called like that. Everyone can be anti-Semitic, as we've seen, but they don't want to mention Muslims being anti-Semitic because it doesn't fit the narrative or anything. They have done a little bit in this report, but not enough. Not enough. Racism, Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, all politically correct words, and I don't really react to them words. If someone was to say to me racist, and I said, who am I accused of bullying? That's what I'd say. That's what I would say. But yeah, these are politically correct words we don't agree with. We think that they may have had some kind of meaning one time, but they've been watered down that much. But, you know, they're no good, these words, and they have to be took out of our culture now before they cause irreparable damage. They're saying now between March 2020 and 2021, there were 114,958 hate crime offences. But I'd like to see a breakdown of who that was against me. Anti-gypsy traveller and Roma hate and gender misogyny. Despite clear evidence of misogynistic hate crimes taking place at an alarming rate, misogyny is still not officially seen as a hate crime by the government or the judiciary and most police forces in the UK. However, since 2016, a number of police forces have begun to record misogyny as a hate crime. The murder of Sarah Everard in March 2021 by a serving police officer and further details emerging of the murders of B.B. Henry and Nicole Smallman reignited conversation about recognising crimes. Well, I just want to, motivated by hatred of women, this has renewed calls for misogyny to be recognised as a hate crime. This would mean that crimes motivated by misogyny will be specifically recorded, blah, blah, blah. I mean, they've said that, but there's no mention of honour violence. There's no mention. They've mentioned the Beebe sisters and Sir Everard. They haven't mentioned Sarah Hussein, who was burnt to death in broad daylight in front of families, kids, and everyone on the street outside her own house. Well, set fire inside, come out, burnt to death, East Street, Bury. Nothing. Not mentioned anything like that. They've not mentioned. I mean, we can go back. There's been a lot of honour violence across the UK in recent years. Never no mention of that. And that's the biggest kind of misogyny we have in the UK is from ethnic minorities. How do I know that? Well, let's look at Arut Shah, the Oldham leader, who, when she stood up to be a councillor, the Pakistani men who were the Labour leaders in her community at the time, did a campaign of hate against her and slagged her off, calling her a whore and saying she slept at top. None of these men were ever convicted of anything. None of these men were kicked out of the Labour Party, and these men still are on Oldham Council now, and nothing was done. And this is well documented and recorded. She's even come out in the council chambers herself and said that, right? No, the biggest misogyny in our country right now comes from other ethnic minorities, not from the general English people. It doesn't. It's never recorded. It's never mentioned, and nothing. Right? Nothing's ever said of it. What about Javid Mia, 23-year-old, sexually assaulted a woman who don't come out of her house anymore, who's too scared to come out to go to work and things like that. And he got off with a suspended sentence because he was the only breadwinner of his family and he worked in a kebab house. So he works in a kebab house, which is not on the books. Kebab houses aren't. He's getting cash in hand money, and he got a suspended sentence for it. Honestly, it's a joke. If we're going to deal with misogyny in the UK, then we have to deal with all misogyny, not just one section, not just the police, not just them corrupt scumbag tit-wearing wankers, the police, not just them. And don't think I don't go after the police. I've named serving PC Rigby, PC O'Connell, serving GMP officers who assaulted my friend Sharon Binks a few years ago, 2018, and they're still serving, and they assaulted her. Yeah, I'll name them, me. I'll name them. I've no fear about naming these people, and I will. And I'll name anybody who's involved in a crime. But we have to deal with all misogynistic crimes, not just not just the white guys. I want the Muslims dealt with in as well. But it's never said. It's never said. They won't say that in this report. It's never, ever said, never, ever mentioned. They never mention it. Hopefully, they'll see this and they'll start mentioning things, because they're saying a few things in here they do say that they never used to. Anti-gypsy traveller and Roma here. Right, well, I mean, again, it's immigration. I've never had any particular problem with gypsies in the UK. myself personally. But with immigration, we've got Romanians, including Romas. A lot of them don't work and a lot of them are crooks. That's why handbag snatching, distraction, theft, all that kind of thing has risen, is because of people like that. We shouldn't have them in. They don't, a lot of them don't work and they have big families, so they're just sucking up benefits and then robbing everyone at the same time. New life for them. They don't have to do it in Romania. They can come here where they're not known and just rob every cunt here. Honestly, you know. So it's not hate. I don't hate any of them people. I just don't want them here because they're messing up our country. But they won't say that. They won't tell you. Hope Not Hate won't tell you that Romas are directly connected to a rise in certain kind of crime, distraction, theft, pickpocketing, and stuff like that. Greater Manchester Police said it. Greater Manchester Police said it on a tweet 2 years ago. They said that 2 years ago on a tweet, and they're not wrong. They're right, but we can't see that. We have to have all the crooks in the world over here, but we can't say anything against that. Well, no. We just don't have these people here. And anyone who's come over on freedom of movement from Eastern Europe or any kind of immigration in the world, if they commit offence here, within first 5 years, they're getting sent home. 10 years, we'll have to think about it. But that's if you're already here. So gender misogyny, they never mention honour violence, not once. Homophobia. Now, again, the far right are mentioned. They're all homophobic and all that. No, they're not homophobic. You can be whoever you want to be, all right? But if you think you can be a trans woman and go into woman space, no, you can't. If you think you can be a trans woman and go into women's sports, no, that shouldn't be allowed. If you think that you can go anywhere where a woman can go, you can't. It's not right. I don't believe in trans. A lot of other people don't believe in trans. And I think it's being indoctrinated into our children at an early age. And I've been through these stats before. In a 20-year period, it went from just a few dozen going for gender reassignment, whatever, to thousands in 20 years. It's being pushed on us and it's indoctrinating our kids, which is ending up with mental health issues and stuff like that. So you can be LGBT, but you're going to have mental health issues, but that's all right. Well, no, it isn't. It isn't. It isn't. If you have mental health issues and you're going down the trans route, then why should I be paying for your mental health bills? Why should I be paying for your mental health bills when I don't agree with that anyway? You know what I mean? Why should I be paying your mental health? And a lot of them do suffer from mental health issues. It's well documented and well noted. You can take my word for it, but just do your own research into it. There's shitloads of mental health issues come with LGBT. These people have been given hormones. These people are changing the biology of their body to something else. It's not right. Five-minute break, guys. 5-minute break. I'm back. So, where were we up to now? I'm sorry I can't put it on screen for some reason. It's just playing up. So, homophobia. They go on about homophobia. They're saying only 13% of respondents in 2021 went to report anything. Victims experience a range of abuse, transphobia, disability hate crime, but they do mention the far right in all that a lot to do with it and the trans movement and stuff like that. But what they don't mention is ethnic minorities against LGBT. There's no mention of the Birmingham protests. There's no mention of the Oldham protests against sex education in schools. No mention of that in their report, but they have to link transphobia and LGBT and to far right, but they never mention that the ones who do damage. And in Oldham, the lead activist in Oldham, live on Northwest Tonight, said that there could be riots again in Oldham if sex education isn't took out of schools. That's what he said live on Northwest Tonight. Now, if I'll take one person, if Peter Smith, good evening, Peter. If Peter Smith would have said that live on Northwest Tonight, it'd have been cut, he'd have been arrested, and he'd have been locked up. But remember, certain communities get away with all that. So not one bit in here did he mention anything about the Birmingham school protests or the Oldham protests, and they don't mention anything about a guy in Oldham saying there could be riots in schools again. Disability hate crime. Again, I'm not saying it's a big thing, disability. You know what I mean? And, you know, if you don't understand a disability, then, you know, you can be seen to, it can be perceived badly and stuff like that. And as they said, not all disabilities are visible. That's what you'll hear a lot. But I mean, look at vulnerable people who get robbed and abused all the time by drug dealers, people robbing the money and stuff like that. And don't think it's just a certain crime that certain people do. These kind of crimes have increased in the past 20 years due to immigration. We've been through this a lot. I've mentioned about the certain crimes and stuff like that. And because of diversity as well, we're putting people in positions that they shouldn't be in, that they really shouldn't be in. They haven't got the qualifications for them, but they're only putting them in for diversity. So that can possibly lead to more crime and hate crime, whatever. But racism in sport, going on about. I should have said this at the beginning, but my stance on Black Lives Matter is that it's a violent, racist, socialist organization that are against a lot of the freedoms that we think that we have today. What Black Lives Matter want to do, if you do a microaggression against them, look at them wrong, they want you segregated. That's what they want. That's what they want. They want to go back to segregation, which obviously, if we look back in history, segregation's never worked. And that's what they want to do to people. They want to defund the police. And I've looked into social development and social control, and we live in a time of social control. So social control is if you do a crime, you get punished, and you have to pay for it. But the utopia they want is social development. So they want to teach you more at school so you don't commit these crimes later on. And that's an interesting thing. interesting thing, but we're never going to get that kind of level of education in schools. It's never going to come. As you might be aware, I've done a lot of stuff about schools in Oldham and the failings. But yeah, so that's what they want, social development rather than social control. We need social control, I think, right these days. This day and age, we need social control, because otherwise the world would end up a lawless world. But I can understand social development, and if I had any kind of power, I'd want to develop our kids better. I actually would increase the time you're at school. Like I would increase the time you're at school up to at least 18 years old. That's what I would do. And I would put more into education and stuff like that. That's what I'd like to do. But that's coming in the future. So racism and football, there's a big section. Raheem Sterling this, Raheem Sterling that. And, you know, I don't know what to say about football. Can't stand the game now because it's just not a sport. It's a political movement. It's a racist statement with that Black Lives Matter kneeling rubbish that they do. And I mean, Black Lives Matter, all you whiteys who give money to Black Lives Matter, what's it done? It's just paid for some woman's mansion.
The US president has announced new sanctions against seafood, alcohol, and diamonds. It follows the UK's Foreign Secretary sanctioning almost 400 members of the Russian Parliament. Liz Truss said 386 members of
And again, the whole thing of hope not hate is that you can only be racist against people of color, which is stupidly ignorant statement. Really, we all know that, but their whole premise is that's what it is with them. That's the whole premise of the core in their belief and why they have this thing is that you can't be racist against a person of color. You can only be you can't be racist against white people, but you can be racist against other people of any color, which is we all know is a load of rubbish. I'm not going through the football thing. They're talking about BAME. They don't like the word BAME now. I mean, it was gone from half caste, mixed race, interracial, BAME. You know, how many words do you have to describe something? Two years on from Black Lives Matter, more than 2 years since the killing of George Floyd by a white police officer in Minnesota, sparked a global movement against police. Global movement against police violence and structural racism. The impact of Black Lives Matter movement in the UK remains significant to Britain's black and minority ethnic populations. Support for Black Lives Matter has remained constant during this time. The majority of respondents in our poll, I can't believe their polls. Anyway, Black Lives Matter, remember, all you whiteys, you put money in and it's gone to some black woman who bought a big house in a white area. So just remember that. And all the leaders now of Black Lives Matter are pulling back because they don't want to be connected to any fraud, which defrauded millions of pounds. But it's only stupid white people who've put into that. And obviously ignorant black people as well who've put into that. Those who haven't put in are a bit more wide awake. You know what I mean? So, I mean, the corruption in that Black Lives Matter Foundation is right at the very top. Some of the people involved in it, like they even mentioned Kyle Rittenhouse in here saying he killed. Well, let me just find it now. Oh, I'm trying to find it. I bet I won't be able to effing find it now. They mentioned Kyle Rittenhouse saying how he killed 2 people. That's all. They didn't go into the backdrop of it. They never mentioned how he tried to save people. And they never mentioned that the 2 people he killed were the most grotesque, nastiest, murderous, horrendous monsters that that shouldn't even be out on the street. And that's who he's killed. But there's no mention of that in there because it doesn't fit the narrative, does it? It really doesn't fit it. And then they brought up MP Nursat Ghani said that she was sacked from the ministerial role for being Muslim. Right, that's what she... Now, the story behind that is that in the same year, earlier on, she was praising everyone in the department where she worked and giving them loads of praise. And then when she's left or been sacked, she's claimed racism. Oh, honestly, this politically correct crap and race card rubbish needs to be thrown right out the window. Get over it. This is what I mean. I mean, what kind of people do we have who run in our country who get a bit upset when you shout at them because they haven't done the job right? You know what I mean? Honestly, that's what it's like. I've had about 30 years supervisory experience, junior management, team leader. I'm a exceptional person working in a team, and I'm an exceptional an exceptional solo player as well. These are kind of skills I have. Now, obviously, a lot of them in politics have gained the positions from the diversity card. She's probably gone up because of the diversity card. She probably wasn't even good enough to be an MP. But obviously, we have to throw in the diversity card. We need a bit of colour at the top. So we'll throw somebody in who not as good as a job, but, you know, it's diverse and all that lot. She's probably one of them kind of people. Nadia Whittam certainly is that kind of person. And there's loads of them who were like that. How come, not here, that Lord Ahmad is still a lord when he's been convicted for 5 years for abusing, buggering a lad and a girl? How come he's still a lord? Now, if he was a so-called far-right white person had done that, he wouldn't have his lord title. He'd be locked up for 50 years, not 5 years. Honestly, this is why it's always going to continue in England, because of the stuff that you do. Lord Ahmed, 5 years. 5 years. You know, I've researched a bit on Lord Ahmed, and when the chief of Rotherham Police was giving a public meeting to people, and they was raising questions about child sexual exploitation, he finished, and after that, Lord Ahmed stood up and he said, yeah, don't blame the taxi drivers. Don't blame the taxi drivers. That's what he said around 2016, 17, after the chief of police come on. And we know that the taxi ranks in Rotherham area, Telford area, Bradford and Manchester, across the north, were intimately part of the grooming gang process. And he said that. This guy is still a lord, right? Even though he's been convicted of buggery and on a lad and raping on a girl. He's been convicted of these offences. He's been convicted of harassment. He harassed somebody as well. He's got a load of charges on him, and he's still a lord. You just couldn't make it up. No worries, Peter. See you after, pal. So yeah, so remember, yeah. So they go on. So yeah, that they put things up, but they've not told all the story of that woman. Boris Johnson has failed to deliver. Yes. You know, I can't stand Boris Johnson more than most people. I never liked him becoming prime minister. I never shouted for him. A lot of my friends did. I never raised the he's not my prime minister. He's not a good prime minister. And I can't stand the Conservative Party now. Can't stand them. Hate and harassment. Hotels. How the far-right activists are attempting to exploit anti-migrant tensions. No, we're not exploiting them. We're showing people because no one else shows them. Remember, Hope Not Hate. Nobody showed anything at Dover for the first year, even though we were. They just never did. So, well, you know, we want to know so that people have showed us. Like I said, I don't want any immigration me to the United Kingdom from anywhere in the world. Don't care what colour, culture, race, ethnicity, whatever you are. We don't want you. I don't want you here. Got enough people here already. We're under serious trouble with housing and stuff like that. No room for anyone. And we don't want our culture changed or drained away in the wash of flood of immigration that is happening right now. So they've gone about anti-migrant protests, and they've mentioned Active, Britain First, Patriotic Alternative, and Yorkshire Rose. And they put a map up and all the dots where everything's been. They go into detail about how doing it all. Nigel Farage is mentioned. Active Sir Steve Laws is on. Got pictures of Yorkshire Rose up there and stuff like that. And then they've got a picture of Yorkshire Amanda with Tommy, because obviously it fits their narrative to show that kind of picture. And I mean, I know them three people pretty well. And I wouldn't say that any of them are particularly politically correct names like far right or anything. I'd say they're more liberal than even me, them three people. Brilliant patriots, though. I know Amanda well, Steve, and Active. And good luck to them. Everything that they do, they don't get any slagging off me. They just do a really good job, them three. And the rest of them who help out, who go down there, Trace. Anyone who's been down there, Nobby's on it in the list. You do a really good job. And my eyes got opened last year before, when I went to Dover myself to see what we was facing, and my eyes were open then. So thank you, guys. Thank you for your continued work, Amanda. Great stuff getting round to them hotels. You're doing a smashing job. And I'm sure sometime I'll bump into you and we'll do the same ourselves. So yeah, they go on and keep mentioning far right as usual. Britain First, Leggett. They've talked about Tracy Wiseman. Transphobia and the far right. So because people are against trans, then you're far right and you're a hateful person and all that lot. Really, it's not like that. It's just that people have been brought up different. But they go on about it, linking it to far right. Nothing in again about Birmingham protests outside schools, nothing about Oldham protests outside schools, nothing about the Oldham activist turning around and said there could be riots in Oldham again if you don't take LGBT out of schools. There's no mention of it, not mention of that in that section, and they're putting it all on the far right. I mean, it's mad. It's mad that in the great schemes of things, the biggest far right people in the UK are Muslims. trans things are against that far right. But yeah, them nasty political correct words we don't like to say. So it goes into go on about the trans issues and all that. So I mean, you know, I'll just pick someone in the Cara Ford's on Cara. So you know, Cara maybe Christian. So you know, you've been brought up with Church of England Christian values, which is nothing to do with trans. They don't force you to change sex or anything. But then when it comes to it, you know, you disagree with it. It's fine that you disagree with it, but it isn't fine in England to disagree with it now. If you disagree with it, then you're a transphobe. If you disagree with it, you're a hateful person, even though you might have reasons for disagreeing it, like your religion or your upbringing. They don't say anything about the Muslims. Nothing in here about LGBT and Muslims. Not nothing. All they do is put far right in everywhere, and they never mention it. The biggest threat to LGBT, trans people, and all that lot is not the general working class of England. It's the immigrant ethnic minorities that are against it. And there was another case. So let's see if I can get this up on screen. Men guilty of murdering student who was beaten. Men guilty of murdering student who was beaten and thrown to his death from balcony at New Year's Eve party. The family of a kind and peaceful student who was murdered by 4 men who beat him and threw him off a balcony say his death has left a void. 4 men were convicted of murdering Bill Henham, 24, who was savagely beaten and thrown to his death from a balcony at a New Year's Eve party at a squat. He was knocked unconscious and dropped around 11 foot into a courtyard by the men. He suffered 60 wounds after being brutally beaten, kicked, stamped, and hit with a wooden banister spindle. After being thrown off the balcony, Mr. Henham was stripped and covered in bleach in a bid to cover up evidence of the killing. So the men with 3 of them are black, and there's been hardly any news. I think, and other people think, that this guy was LGBT, and he was in Brighton coming from London after being at his family's. Nothing. There's no outrage. There's no riots on the streets. There's nobody has hardly said anything about this. If you blinked, you would have missed the entire report. And I definitely think he was a better gay, me. or LGBT, whatever you want to say, was that. And they did that to him. Nothing really. And I mean, how brutal is that by like 28 and 30-year-olds? What kind of people do we have in our country who would do that to another person, whether or not they're LGBT or not? I just don't get it, me. I really don't get it. Nothing. There's nothing in papers about it. Nothing said anywhere about it. There's no outrage. There's no LGBT lives matter protest or anything like that. Gone. So nothing. So obviously, if it was a group of 4 white men, that would be world national news. That, but no. In England, we're unequal, and it's just more for one person than another. No one says nothing when it's black people who do it. No one says anything. No one says anything. I'd love to meet them guys, me, in another life. When I were a nice person, I would have loved to have met them guys. I would have loved to. But yeah, so we're on the State of Hate report. I'm coming off before 8 because I want to get onto Amigo News channel for Tracy's live stream. And that's on at 8. So they go on about mainstream media coverage of trans issues and stuff like that. You know, if the all-powerful trans movement, the far-right's rhetoric around trans people is similar to that of many other groups that it targets. It uses similarly contradictory language to justify its hate. Transgender people are simultaneously ridicules and threatening, weak and powerful depending on context. Depicting trans people as powerful and dangerous serves to legitimate hate and obscure the fact that transgender people face a remarkable amount of persecution. Now, obviously, you remember that little star who got killed, that little baby who got killed. This is one of the dangers of the trans movement, an obvious danger that to see, right, is that in LGBT, it's not us. It's me. Just you'll get like the average LGBT me. They only think of themselves, which has led us to breeding up that girl who was with Star's mother who killed the baby because she's a me person, and me persons don't like other people getting attention, whether it's a baby or not. So the ideology and the indoctrination that she's had when she's younger has turned her into that person. And a lot of these people are like this. It's me. So you don't get any fairness out of them or anything like that. And the all-powerful trans movement is powerful. It is powerful because it's the trans movement is that there is paedophiles within the trans movement who are getting access to children and things like that, honestly. And the indoctrination that they put on these kids and stuff like that will just cause serious mental health issues, cause people to grow up like that Star Robson's mum's girlfriend, me. If she'd have been brought up in a family environment, that baby would have never have died because she would have been a part of a family and it's family. And she would have never have been in a position to hate somebody because she's not getting enough attention because that other person's getting attention. And this is LGBT people in a flash. That's what they're like in a flash. If you disagree with me or you think that I've said something wrong or nasty, there's my email, john.lawrence 40@hotmail.co.uk. You can come on and talk to me. But yeah, the trans movement and the LGBT movement is me. They don't care about other people. They want more. They don't like that other people get more attention than themselves, which has ended up with that little Star Hobson getting brutally murdered by her mum's partner. That's what you grow up to be like. So yeah, so they put up a couple of Nazi flags on the Hope Not Hate thing. Who the fucking hell? Nobody has a swastika. Everyone knows what it means. So putting that up just is more of the ingraining of like racist, far right. And there's people who will pick up on that and believe everything that they're told. Trans people are now one of the primary targets of violent far-right groups. Some of the most extreme fascist groups are also virtually anti-trans, and in some cases they have turned their ideas into action. Again, it goes on, linking far-right to all nastiness. Right, so what about ethnic minority crime against LGBT people? No, there's nothing about that. What about the Rochdale guy who was beaten black and blue in a coma for 3 weeks and he was beat up by a gang of Asians? Nothing mentioned anywhere. What about the 2 lads at King Street tram stop who were set upon by, again, another gang of Asians? Nothing said about. I think a lot of the violence, the extreme violence to the LGBT community does not come from the general working class people of the UK. It comes from people who we've invited in this country who are barbaric on their beliefs against LGBT people and things like that. That's where I think that the most incense of violence come from. And what about the 2 lads on the tram who were coming from Bury were assaulted in Manchester city centre by more than 20 black youths? Black boys and girls. Nothing's mentioned. 20 of them. I'll check that case. A lesbian and gay choir staged a mass sing-along on Manchester tram network after homophobic thugs attacked 2 young gay men who were singing songs from the musical Wicked on a night out. Just trying to find how many they think were there again. The group, right, so it started on the tram by a slim white dude and a woman, but then the big group was a group of black and mixed race men at Manchester Piccadilly Gardens who had surrounded these lads and attacked them. Then, you know, why is it? It's not the far right. That's what they said. That's what Hope Not Hate always put it down to. Not far right. The far right certainly aren't the most violent in that kind of thing. There's a lot more I can see in ethnic minorities being violent. And I have to be frank. I have to be absolutely frank. If you look into Jamaica and look at men and the men in Jamaica who don't like LGBT, if you go to Jamaica and you're LGBT, you're going to get killed. right? But I mean, will Jamaican MPs say that? Because that's what it's like in Jamaica, ladies and gentlemen. Don't take my word for it. Do your own research and look at gender violence in Jamaica. Look at misogyny in Jamaica and look at LGBT violence in Jamaica. And I'm not saying just Jamaica. Pakistan is the same there. All these countries, absolutely, their hate levels for LGBT is a lot more than the general working class person in the UK. I'm sorry to say. But we don't have to mention that. All we have to do is put far right in there and blame it on white people. We just couldn't make it up, honestly. It's a fucking joke. An absolute joke. I mean, I watched, yes, Brett, I watched Amigo News Stream with Sensium, and he was going on about people like speaking English. And I've got something else to say about that, but we'll get round to that. But I'm hoping I'll be back on Amigo News in a couple of weeks, and we'll do another stream. I want to talk about the hate crime bill. I want to talk about schools and learning and speaking and understanding English. I want to talk about all that, which relates to stuff that the lads on Amigo News have already talked about. But you'll get it if you come on. Section 3, anti-lockdown and COVID conspiracies. Right, well, I'll tell you right now, I told you this earlier on. If you've had the jab, you've had the jab. You're not going to get any argument off me. I'm not going to put you down. I'm not going to shout at you. I'm not going to fall out with you. If you haven't had the jab, then the same applies. I'm not going to fall out with you or whatever, right? So it's specifically a choice whether you have it or not. I haven't had it. I have my reasons. I have a few different reasons why I have it, but it's not the same reasons as everybody else. It certainly is not the same reasons as everybody else. But I mean, if you believe that there is no viruses in the world and everything is made to affect us, then you're very ignorant and you're very stupid. I do understand what we can do change viruses around, but not every virus that's ever been has been man-made. And there is viruses out there now that are deadly that are not man-made. They are natural viruses. Because I saw a lot of people saying that anything like that is all man-made and it's always been man-made. No, it hasn't. If you've done biology at school and you've looked into like the animal world a bit, you would understand a bit more about viruses. If you've done the work when you were younger and you did stuff on making bacteria and stuff like that, you would have learned about viruses and what they can do. Now, they go on about 5G, no vax, depopulation, and stuff like that. The cabal, they mention the cabal, saying that because a lot of us mention the cabal, so obviously they're going to mention the cabal. And I mean, I believe that I more or less believe there is some evil cabal putting us down and all. I more or less go on that line, me. But as on for 5G, not bothered. New World Order. Yeah, could have said that. No vax. If you don't want the vax or your thing, no depopulation. There's a lot better ways to depopulate us than the ways that everyone thinks are trying to depopulate us now. There's certainly a lot of better ways. I mean, one of the biggest ways is the way they're indoctrinating our kids for depopulation. That's the biggest one. Takes a while, takes a generation, but after that generation, the effects of it are more sustained than just like injecting a few people with something and they're dying. It's more sustained. So I'd be scared of the next generation of kids, what they'd be like me. Honestly, I would be more scared of that than anything. They go on about economic hardships and stuff like that. They put a performance up. Katie Shirani. And you know what I mean? She's a former nurse. And it's mad that these Hope Not Hate people, I don't know if there's any nurses in, if any of them are nurses, yet they're putting down a nurse. It's madness, that. It's madness, that. Escalating activity, potential for violence. Keep going on about that. Caught in the conspiracists. Conspiracists. Fucking hell. So what they're saying is the far right exploited anti-vaccine groups and protests. Not really. I think that a lot of them protests were people who were not far right, would have made a majority of not. And they put up a picture of Nick Griffin. They're going on about patriotic alternative. They've said stuff about lockdown and stuff like that. Go on about the Light newspaper and stuff like that. No mask, no vaccine passports, no forced vaccinations. Still going on about PA getting involved in it all. Graham Moore's in. He's mentioned. Alpha Team Assemble, some newest militant anti-vaccine groups, has already been infiltrated by the far right. What infiltrated for what? So you know what I mean? It's infiltrated what? What do you mean infiltrated? Is everyone going to go on to the so-called politically correct far right way because they're infiltrated? You know, the stuff they use in here, the words they use are clever. Infiltration, militant. It's all to make you think that, like, an ignorant person would think, fucking hell, these guys are army, they're training. They're going to kill people. That's what, you know, how dumb some people are anyway. Tommy Robinson again. Britons and conspiracy, some graphs up. A fake union playing on fears. Matthew Collins discovers conspiracy theorists and far-right politicians behind the Workers of England Union. You know, that's... So what? So what? You know, honestly, they just want to demonize everyone who doesn't have the same agenda, honestly. Again, if you want to contact me, john.lawrence at 40@hotmail.co.uk. And I mean, I'm open. If you want to do some, if you want to be aggressive against me, I'm sure we could organise a charity boxing match or something. Because I have a mate who's got a gym in Oldham, and I'm sure he'd be up for hosting something like that. And you can fight me in the gym or something like that if you feel that violent. You know what I mean? But really, you can just come on my stream and talk to me. And what you'll find is I'll agree with a lot to do with what you think. I will agree with a lot. That's what you'll see. And I'm open to debate and talking about certain issues. But if you're going to be calling me names, politically correct terms, then you've lost already, because that means that you haven't got an answer, or, you know, you're just an ignorant fool. But john.lawrence40@hotmail.co.uk. Any Hope Not Haters want to come on, you want to email me, you don't have to do a stream, you can email me, and I'll even go to swapping a number and phone you up and talk to you on the phone if that's what you want, if you know, if you'll go down that route. But you know, I'm quite open to be talked to. I'm not closed or anything, but my email's there. I don't really get a lot of emails because there must be just too many shitheads in the melts in the Open Not Here and the lefties to come on and talk to me. What they like to do is say something in the street, which is not really fuck all that, really, is it? Really? I mean, would you stand up and say something to the Mayor of Manchester or GMP top policeman? I would. I don't know about you. I certainly would. So yeah, they're going on about showing pictures of I forget his name, from Bristol. So they go into saying who's behind Workers of England Union, mentions Tilbrook and all that lot. Well, so we're not allowed to do any reporting or to be part of a union. Honestly, if I ever get any power, you better watch out, you lefties. Honestly, don't you think Boris Johnson was out of order? Just wait till you get a bit of me. Conspiracy theorists and groups. David Icke, Richie Allen, says about them all. Piers Corbyn, Katie's there again. They bring up the Light again, the newspaper, the Light. Alpha Team assembled, Martin Geddes, Simon Parks, Charlie Ward. Tech and far right. Again, you have to put the Nazi thing. I just don't get that, me. Far right, and you have to put the Nazi in. What you'll find, there obviously there is some people who believe the Jews are the evil of the world. But there's loads who don't. But you still class them as far right, but they won't even go near a swastika. They'd be sick seeing a swastika, but you've got to imprint that them people are far right when they're not. It's just unbelievable. Going on about social media platforms, going on about Telegram, Getter's mentioned, everything's mentioned, really. Alt platforms, BitChute, Parler, Gab, Getter, Odyssey, Rumble, D-Live, Telegram. I'm on all of them. Section 5, far-right terrorism. The growing far-right terror threat. The violent far-right is part of a complicated landscape, one of which increasing numbers of young people are being sent to prison. The threat of far-right terror. Right, well, I'm not even going to read through it, right? And I'll tell if I ever get the chance to speak to another policeman, I'll tell them what I fucking think of the terrorism thing. When you go on the terrorism watch list for having flies in your pocket, you go on the terrorism watch list because you got attacked by 40 masked Antifa, and that's why you go on the terrorism watch list. There has been no right-wing terrorist deaths for how many years in the UK, but we've had, in the past 20 years, it's been 99.99% Islamic terrorism, but you won't mention that. It's not worth mentioning. You're not bothered about it. If you was bothered about it, you'd do something against it, but you don't. You don't have a thing that go checking out YouTube channels for Islamists, do you? No, you just got to fucking pick on the white man or the working class person instead of not suiting your narrative by going on about the real threat to us that's there. So I'm not even going to read any of that rubbish out. And I know people who've been fitted up by the police, and you think that I believe any of them things in here. No, I don't believe them. I don't believe that all these youths are supposed to have been arrested for terrorism charges, because you are full of shit. Like I said, I'm not going to keep quiet, and I'll do this and tell some chief of police when I'm next at some meeting and they get told. I'll tell it to the mayor of Manchester. I'll tell it to anybody. I'll tell it in the council chambers how I think it is and why I know. So to keep going on, there's a massive section on far right extremism. Then Nazi terrorists. It's just coming up with loads of people and stuff. I mean, you know, whether you believe the Jews are innocent or not, you should be free to criticize or talk or debate about issues to do with everyone. The thing is, the minute you silence people from talking about these issues, that's when people are going to turn around and not believe you. They're not going to believe you because you silencing us. You shouldn't have to do that in a proper society. I mean, I'm not going to. The far right wrestles with Ukraine. Let me just tell you, ladies and gentlemen, Big John's not wrestling. I don't want him here. Big John's not wrestling. I don't have to wrestle with my conscience. Don't want anybody in this country from anywhere in the world, no matter what colour, ethnicity, religion, culture you come from, don't want end permanent settlement to the United Kingdom. All right? So I have nothing to wrestle with me. I have nothing to wrestle with. I feel sorry for the Ukrainians, though, because they're going to come here. The kids are going to go to school, and then when them kids leave school, they're going to be calling the parents racist because Ukrainians are nationalists. You're going to lose twice. You lost your country to Russia, and you're going to lose when you come here to the United Kingdom, because that's what's going to happen to your kids. Also, what's going to happen to your kids, they're going to get indoctrinated with LGBT rubbish, and you'll find out that you start getting trans people in your generations coming. That's what's going to happen to your children in when you come from the Ukraine. And I did do a little video today, but I'll just go on about it. I mean, I was born in the Glodwick area of Oldham. And at the time, it was a big Ukrainian West Indian area. And we have several Ukrainian clubs around the town centre. And a woman said, "Where have all the Ukrainians gone now?" Well, my dear, they integrated. That's where they've gone. They integrated. Because another woman come up, said her grandparents was Ukrainian. And she's British, and they've integrated. The ones who we have trouble with, the ones who don't integrate, who are still in that area, who won't leave, who have made it into a ghetto. The Ukrainians integrate. It's a big difference between them and other people in this country and what they did. They integrated. That's why there's no Ukrainians now. They integrated. And back in the days, in them early days, Polish came here again. There is still Polish here, but they don't have one centralised Polish community. Why? Because they integrated. When you look into Oldham, there is no integration. There's never been any integration for 30, 40 years, which has caused Oldham Bradford riots, child sexual exploitation, and a load of gangsters lovers to run the council, and ignorant, put there for diversity people who can't even run a corner shop. And what else do we know about Ukraine? So 2014, an American-led action led to overthrowing the then president. Since then, the new president has been abusing all the people who don't want him there and killing thousands of people. And now in 2022, we have to get involved and go on the warpath against Russia. You're just all warmongers. That's what you are. Our British establishment, the EU, NATO, you're all fucking warmongers, and you're not welcome. You're causing more of the strife than solving it. 100,000 Ukrainians are coming to the United Kingdom. You might love them. Where the fuck they gonna live? We've got tens of thousands of people in hotels. Where are these Ukrainians gonna live? What they're saying now is that you have to give up your spare bedroom for a Ukrainian family, or a Ukrainian couple. That's what they're doing now. So you're going to have to start giving up your spare bedrooms and stuff like that. That is what's happening. There is no room for 100,000 Ukrainians. I don't get it. With no housing, we've got a shit housing infrastructure, we've got a shit infrastructure, and we're taking in 100,000 Ukrainians. There's 500,000 Hong Kongers, possibly going up to 3 million coming in here. We've got unlimited. It doesn't look like it's going to stop tens of thousands of people coming in illegally and through Dover. I tell you what, I'm not really want to say this, but Great Britain is just going to sink into the ocean with all these people here. We just can't take this. On a basic level, we'll just talk about housing. There's no room for anyone. Forget about changing our history. Just one thing, housing, there's no room for anyone. Warmongers, that's all we are. What are we, the police of the world? And we think that everyone should go on our thingy. And also, when I've been told this, how true it is, I haven't read the particular stuff, but Russia, they broke up, the Russian Federation broke up, then Ukraine, all these places appeared. And the Russians said, just to NATO, just you be careful and don't creep up to our front door. What had NATO done? They've fucking gone in all the countries around Russia, like they're surrounding them. So what's Putin going to do? He's going to fucking fire bombs. You're just warmongers. You're all warmongers. That's what you are. Stinking scumbag warmongers. If we haven't learned the lessons of getting into shit wars and what happens afterwards, I just don't get it. I just don't get it, honestly. And nothing particular against the Ukrainians. You're nationalists. You sound like nice people, but I'm being honest. I don't want anybody, don't matter what colour, race, ethnicity, religion, colour, anything, from outside of England coming to this country. No permanent settlement. And I'm absolutely bent on that. And that even means Christian people from around the world, no matter where you come from. We don't want anyone here. And that is one of the core principles of our party, is to end permanent settlement to the United Kingdom. Conspiracy theorists respond to Ukraine. Oh, it's this, that, and the other. Oh, it's this, that, and the other. So blame Putin. It's not all Putin's fault, though. I've just mentioned a couple of things. It's not all Putin's fault. Other people are pushing this. Not just Putin. Other people are pushing this, and everyone's ignorant to it. And you're only following the lines because Russia's always been the enemy. Russia's been the enemy from everyone since time immemorial, right? So it's easy for our government and everyone to get everyone on board with them against Russia. Just what is it? Someone says to me, Russia just doesn't want to be in the New World Order. He's anti-LGBT and children indoctrination, except for communism. So yeah, they keep going on about conspiracy theorists, and then mainstream hate, section 6, mainstream poison. Lots of political correct words. Labour Party's mentioned a couple of times. Words have power. They certainly do. But it's the true words that have power, not the lies. That's what it is. Stephen Rimmer. Did I not remember Katie Hopkins saying the same thing? Remember when he first come? She said get a 50 mil out. So yeah, I'm not going to be on too much longer now. 8 o'clock, Tracy's on Amigo News, and I want to get on that channel, and I'll be in the chat. So yeah, again, far right. This they keep saying that. Remember, it's a trigger word. The more you hear it, the more you're indoctrinated. Click, 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 like that. He mentioned Stammer, disinformation about Stammer circulating. He blamed it on a particular group. right? But it's mad because even before Boris Johnson said that, there was loads of people saying it. But even before Boris said it, loads of people, it's not one particular group who've set that up. But I mean, you have to look into the story, look into Keir Starmer, and he was the head of the whatever Crime Prosecution Service at the moment. Look into it and look for the truth. It's not, I mean, there is a lot of truth there, but it's not as clear as what you would think it is. So you just need to, you'd have to look into his relationship, what happened at Jimmy Savile times and all that lot. But look into it if you want to. Keep mentioning Tommy. They mentioned violence against members of parliament. I mean, I'm going to be becoming a councillor, so does that mean that someone can throw a milkshake over me without getting arrested or charged with an offence? Because if that happens, then I'll be pushing for a charge or an offence, or if someone goes to strike me, I'll be pushing for a charge or an offence. If I don't get it, then it'll be World War III, unfortunately. World War III, 4 and 5. I will start with my mouth against whatever. So, you know, it's if you don't have that, if you don't have the same narrative, then you can be abused, physically assaulted, and you know nothing happens to the person who assaulted you. Right, whatever. I just want someone to try it with me. That's what I want to do. Platforming hate. Spectator. They go on about everything. Steve Laws has been on Talk Sport or Talk whatever. So what? Lovely lad. He's not nasty or anything. Hyperlocal Politics, New Channels by David Lawrence. Since the collapse of the British National Party, blah, blah, UKIP, we mentioned, what are they? Populist Radical Right, Leave EU, Reform UK, UKIP. Honestly, Reclaim Party, David Curtin, David Curtin's Heritage Party, the Reclaim Party are in the Five Star Democracy Party, and they're all wankers. They're all the enemy, according to them. War on Woke. Rosie Carter profiles those who like GB News. They just don't like anybody who has anything against them or don't have the narrative. It's madness. I mean, in Big John's New World Order, I'd shut them down, me. I'd shut these people down. So, I mean, Tommy's return, big thing on Tommy and his missing millions. They even show, they mentioned Gingy Tony, Danny Tomo, Danny Roscoe, Zach, and they mention everyone around him. And then Section 8, far-right profiles. Mark Collette. Laura Tyler's on the prospects of what they're going to be like and all with the group. British Movement, leader Steve Frost, or they're in the Combat 18, Blood and Honour, White Stag Athletic Club, New British Union, Order of Nine Angels. Angles, not angels. Independent Nationalist Network, The Link, profiles, far-right parties, Britain First, big section, Proud Boys, National BNP, National Front, British Freedom Party, For Britain, English Democrats. Oh, they've mentioned the National Housing Party UK leader Pat McGuinness. Wrong. Ding dong. I'll just show you something. So what I'd like to know, I hope not here, why aren't they putting my name there on me Twitter profile? I'm leader, right? I've stated I'm leader, and the absolute unbelievable 1,000,000% proof is I'm putting up the Electoral Commission application for a political party, and as you can see, party leader John.Lawrence, and that's the official thing. That's going off. There we go. So I'm the leader of the National Housing Party UK. Why don't they put my picture up? Why don't they mention that? I'm not sure. Maybe because it don't fit their narrative. And unlike a lot of people that they might think they've got things on, hope not here. They don't have nothing on me. I've not got a criminal record worth even mentioning. 25 years ago, my last thing I did wrong. I'm not a thug or anything like that. I'm not a drug dealer or anything like that. I don't work in any of the kind. Not sex. They have not got nothing on me. So they have to put a white person up instead because it don't fit the narrative. But Danny Roscoe were lucky to get his picture in, but there's no picture of me. The group's primary focus is opposing immigration and it campaigns. Well, it's not our primary focus. Our primary focus is houses. That's why we call the National Housing Party. When we come to power, we will be building houses. That's what we'll be doing. I know a lot of people don't want houses built, but we're going to have to unless we empty all the country, and we can't do that. No one's being forcibly kicked out unless they're an illegal or a criminal or whatever, but we have to build houses for the people who are here. And that's me, you, all the Pakistanis who are already here, the Indians, anyone who's already here, we've got to build for. So we're going to be building houses. So no, the primary thing isn't immigration, it's housing. As it says, National Housing Party, you thicko melts. And then it said the National Housing Party has also stated that climate change and COVID-19 pandemics are hoaxes. Right, well, my views on climate change is the climate does change. With or without us helping it, it has changed throughout all of time, and it will change again with or without us helping it change. And if you go on about the climate crisis, why don't you mention China? That's all I have to say about the climate crisis. COVID-19 pandemics are hoaxes. Well, I've never said that. But if you believe it, you believe that. It's your belief. I can tell you that viruses are not hoaxes. I can tell you that, yes, viruses have probably been doctored by human beings. But yeah, so 1 minute, guys, 1 minute. Sorry about that. So yeah, so going more about parties. they've mentioned the Scottish Family Party because they're anti-trans, so they're far right. Nothing of the sort. You just couldn't make it up. Graham Mosing's Constitution Party's got a little bit in there as well. So, I mean, it's an extensive report. It goes through a lot of stuff. You can view the report yourself. Take some reading or getting into it. Anti-Muslim. They'll go on about Gavin Bobby. The Freedoms Library. Holocaust denial. So, I mean, in a world where you're supposed to, you know, be able to say what you want to say and all that lot, then you can't deny the Holocaust. But again, they're focusing this on white people, but they never mention ethnic minority groups. They never mention Muslims and Jews. They never mention that. They never mention it, which is a massive, serious problem. I mean, if you ask me, they're the most racist, violent people, one of the most racist kind of violent people we have here over other cultures and that, and getting along with people. They don't get along with people, just mass segregation all the time. But anyway, right. I've had enough now. Thank you, Clive. I've had enough now. I'm going. I'm on Tracy's stream on Amigo News channel. Let me find the link. There it is. Right. That's the links in chat. So that's to Amigo News channel. Trace is on at 8 o'clock. I have an interview, so I'll be on in the chat. I don't know. I might get on the stream. I don't know, but I'll certainly be in the box. And please join in and join us. Thank you for listening to me rabble on about Hope Not Hate. I hope that I've put some things into perspective there. How these kind of people operate. And these are the people who are more full of hate that I've noticed than anybody else in this cause, more so than anyone else I know. These people are really full of hate, which gets to the point where they can justify acts of violence against you. I'm 54, me. If you want to try and commit acts of violence against me in the street, by all means you can do. But I'm not somebody who's going to go down lightly, and I'm not someone who's going to run off either. You know, that's not me. I can talk. I don't have to get verbally abusive or anything, but I can talk. So my email's there. Especially left-leaners, if you just disagree with me, if you've got an issue with anything I said, if you want to talk about or debate about anything, my email is johnlawrence40@hotmail.co.uk, and you can contact me there. If you've got me on Twitter or Facebook or anything, you want to talk, you can add me on there and you can talk to me on there. I'm easy, me. I'll add anyone. I don't care what. If I'm not willing to put something on a screen, then I'm not worth doing anything. And most of the stuff, 99% of the stuff I talk about is truth and fact. Thank you very much. It's Big John, and I will be seeing you all 8 o'clock. Thank you.